Afternoon, everybody. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and I am not one of those people who consistently brings up that the Steelers have the NFL's highest paid defense. But you know what? The Steelers have the NFL's highest paid defense. And I recognize the value of Alex Highsmith and behind him, Nick Herbig. I recognize that you need a right outside linebacker in your scheme. And I recognize that Cam Sutton won't be back until after he finishes serving his 8-week suspension. And that's about all that I'm willing to recognize as far as any potential excuse would be given for the way the defense has performed the past 2 weeks. If that were to happen again Sunday in Las Vegas, this team will go from 3-0 to 3-3. And you know what? You can forget about casting them as any sort of contender in that case. And I don't mean to be overstating the importance of a Week 6 game, but that's not the way I'd be looking at this. I'd be looking at this as weeks 4 through 6. I'd be looking at this as 3 eminently beatable opponents going at the Steelers and defeating them through what was not only supposed to be the Steelers' strength, but was supposed to be, and fairly so, I think, one of the better defenses in the NFL. Remember all that stuff after weeks 2 or 3, how the Steelers had the best defense in the NFL? I mean, arguably, they should have that. Why do they have the NFL's highest paid defense? Because they're not paying a quarterback. I have no problem with it. I have no problem with them paying the defense. If you can't put the money into the offense, and it's kind of hard to do that without paying the quarterback, you're doing the right thing, obviously, by spending up to or at least close to the salary limit. Great. Wonderful. So play like it.
Honestly, it's just do your job. That's what I try to tell them is just do your 111. Don't try to do too much. Just like we talk about each and every week here is this defense is the plays are going to be there to be made. It's just don't try to 2-gap when you're supposed to be 1-gapping. Don't try to shoot stuff when you're not supposed to. And the plays will fall in your lap, and it's just about seizing the opportunity when it comes your way.
That was TJ Watt, of course. And you know what? TJ's done his job. TJ, if you think about it, out of the first 5 games, he had one where he wasn't really visible, but that was the Colts systematically holding him, and I'll give him a mulligan on that one. But you need your impact guys, your triumvirate of superstars, to be 3 players, not 1. Cam Hayward has to stand out. Cam himself was the one who said he still sees himself as one of the top 5 interior defensive linemen in football. He's been okay. He's gotten more done than most, but that's not it. Minkah Fitzpatrick, no one's calling him the best safety in the game anymore, are they? Why? Because Minkah had gained that reputation for his ball-hawkedness, and his ball-hawkedness hasn't been seen since the second to last game of the 2022 season. For real, that was his last interception. There are other players on that side of the ball of whom I don't know that you would call them stars or whatever, but we all had cause to be excited about Patrick Queen. I know I was. I think there's still a chance that he could become something here, become close to what he was in Baltimore. I never bought the thinking that he was just kind of sponging off of Roquan Smith's success. But, make some plays. He's made a handful. He hasn't made enough. We could do this through the whole group. But as I'm talking to you right now, before I board that flight for Las Vegas tomorrow, the best player on that side of the ball, other than TJ's always an outlier, has been Deshaun Elliott. Now, that's to Elliott's credit. He's been consistent in coverage. He's been consistent in being physical, consistent in making the smart reads, and he's been a really good tackler when he slid up. But that's not what you want to hear about this defense. You don't want to hear that Elliott's your best player. And that's got to stop, and it's got to stop this weekend. They, the defense, have to be the ones who carry this day. Who's that quarterback again? Aiden O'Connell or something like. Just stop that. Stop that Aiden O'Connell stuff that they're going to try to do and win the game, and maybe everybody can recalibrate after that.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck, who was over at the Steelers headquarters earlier today. Chris, this offense needs a playmaker. There's a lot of different ways to define that in football. We've certainly spent a significant chunk of this week, I think everybody in this city, talking about George Pickens. You also hear people citing Pickens as the Steelers' only playmaker. I think that's leaving Justin Fields out unfairly, but it's also not that far from the truth. Who's the playmaker in this offense? Forget about the rest of the season or the long term. Who's the playmaker on Sunday?
That's a really, really good question. I mean,
Okay.
it's a really good question, just because, like when you look at what this offense is built on, this offense is built on the running game. They're not running the ball. They're not running it efficiently either. And so that if that doesn't work, it almost doesn't matter who's a playmaker on this offense or anything, because now you're talking about the core identity of this offense just not being there. And so then you're just trying to improv and do something in order to be productive, kind of like they had to do in the Colts game. It was too little too late. They didn't get enough offense earlier in the game. It didn't help the fact that the defense was terrible and give up 17 points quickly. But it's just, when you look at other playmakers, like, yeah, Pat Freiermuth can be a guy, but he's more of a security blanket type thing. He can be a dynamic receiver at times, but there's nobody else that strikes fear.
You mean like if they throw to him? Yeah.
Well,
I mean, 0 targets in the first half. I can't even on that subject. What about Jaylen Warren? See, I consider, when I'm naming the Steelers playmakers, I think Jaylen, if he's healthy, is close to being right there with George because of all the different things that he can do, different ways that he can move the sticks. And I think they've really missed him, and I don't know that that's even been discussed enough around here.
They've definitely missed him, and I think that the sooner they can get him back, the better. Of course, you don't want to rush him back. Anytime you're dealing with a soft tissue injury, the last thing you want to do is rush it and then have it get worse, and then he's out for, instead of missing a couple of games, he's now missing half the season or even longer. But they definitely need him back, because when we've been talking about this running game, this whole thunder and lightning with Najee and Jalen, like Najee needs Jalen and Jalen needs Najee. Like they both kind of need each other in order for this running game to. And here's the reason why, because I think Jalen is the more dynamic back, but he has now proven that he's having he can't stay healthy.
He's staying on the field,
I mean,
right? Which means fewer carries ultimately over the. I mean, the one thing you can say about Najee, even his most ardent critics will concede that
he's
he
there
plays,
every game.
He's
every
available, game. And then he's even more there in December.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever other teams have worn down and he keeps running, and there is real value in that. I've been critical of him, but man, you can't take that away from him. This is a guy who stands up to the rigors of football. I need a playmaker still, Chris. I'm waiting on you, man. How about Justin? What about Justin? They did something, and for anybody who doesn't know, Mike Tomlin said today that Russell Wilson will be QB2 in the game. He'll actually be suiting up, but suiting up with a purpose. And that Jalen will be questionable. But where Justin is concerned, they did utilize him more in designed runs against Dallas.
Yeah,
didn't they?
and that's something that I think they want to do more of. And I think that even if it does get to a point now, we're not there yet because we know what the quarterback situation is going to be. But if it ever does get to a situation in which Russell Wilson does take over as QB1, I think you're still going to see designed runs for Justin Fields. I don't think he's just going to stand, like we were talking about before the season, he's just going to stand on the sideline holding a clipboard. They have plans for Justin Fields, and I think you see that in what they've been doing on offense for the first 5 weeks of the season. And yeah, I think that will continue. But the one thing I want to say, the way Justin can really, really be dangerous is whenever he's able to extend. And I think that whenever you utilize play action, and if his first or second read isn't there, roll out of the pocket, do something, something, get on the move. That's when defenses are going to stress because he can throw the ball a million miles downfield, or he can take off and run. And that's whenever defenses are kind of caught in that conundrum.
They get freaked out, actually. I mean, in some cases, they get freaked out, and we've seen that with him. So, yeah, he's definitely on that list. I'll try one final time. How about Roman Wilson? How about anybody who can make a play?
I do think just from I really tried to observe Roman Wilson quite a bit during practice, and obviously not allowed to disclose anything that's not told to me. But I would the best way I can put it is that he's getting closer in terms of being able to be available. Now, that's also on the coaches. If the coaches just don't think he's ready, they're not going to play him. But I think even when Roman Wilson does come back, I don't think that anybody should view him as some sort of savior.
No, he doesn't have to be a savior, though, Chris. See, my thing with Roman is if the whole getting on the moving train is about his health, then you completely understand it. And there's not going to be much in the way of that locker room right now where you're going to get a vibe that he's not healthy enough to play if they wanted/needed him to. Okay. So the moving on the train thing then means, well, he's not necessarily in the vibe of the offense, or he doesn't know the playbook as well as he should, or isn't going to react to it reflexively, to which I say, I don't care. Give him a route that looks like the letter L. You know what I mean? And just say, hey, kid, just do this. Run to that yard line and then cut to your left. We're going to throw you the football. And see all those bad men over there? They want to tackle you. Don't let them. And that's it. I mean, that's the whole, that's all you need to do. And have him do that instead of Van Jefferson 5 or 6 times a game, and you might actually have something. You follow me?
Just the one thing that was the big question with Roman Wilson coming out of college was he was limited to the slot at Michigan. Now that's Michigan. That's Big Ten football. Now Big Ten is one of the better conferences in Division I football, and that's great and that's commendable. It's not the NFL. And you're talking about trying to take a slot receiver from college and ask him to play more than the slot at the NFL level before he's even played a snap. Like, I just think that any way that Roman Wilson comes back, it's going to have to be eased in, which is exactly what they've been doing so far. So I think people have really, really high, almost too high expectations for what he's going to do once he gets on the field, because he looked great for the first 3 days of training camp.
Yeah, I know. And that's the part that kind of eats at you a little bit here. And I understand everyone would have had a much better sense for where he is if he had been able to stay on the field and everything else. I get that part. I really do. I just, Omar, dude, there are wide receivers out there. Go get one. It doesn't have to be the world's greatest. It doesn't have to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Just get somebody who's a breathing body. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Welcome back. Time for our J1Q segment. That stands for Just One Question. And today's entry comes from Ryan Keel, Virginia Beach.
Hey DK, this is Ryan in Virginia Beach, and here's my J1Q. If the bar is Van Jefferson, then why not 2 wide receiver 2s? We have the cap space, restructuring if necessary, lower cost than a single wide receiver 1 in both cap space and trade capital, more viable options, pushes George Pickens, and we have the need.
Yes. I mean, let's put it this way, Ryan. Every answer is better than no answer at all. Every idea is better than trying to pretend that this one's just going to work itself out. There are so many different ways to dissect this particular problem, from the insanity of ignoring Pat Freiermuth to the double insanity of trying deep passes to other tight ends instead of Freiermuth, to having the sense that you have to have Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin on the field for more snaps than George Pickens because you're worried that he's not going to hustle them out, or you're trying to take away his excuses for hustling them out or not hustling them out. The whole thing is such a mess. And it seems to me that what we've witnessed over this past, 2-3 months while waiting for all this to get resolved is that they're just hunkering down. Whether it's Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, Art Rooney, I don't know, all of everyone who's involved in this is just kind of saying, well, yeah, but we really thought we had something here, and let's see if we can still have something here. You don't. And what's worse, you won't. This has to be looked at internally as not just a real problem, but as the real problem. And until that happens, it's just going to keep being a problem every weekend, including this weekend in Las Vegas. Crazy, I know, but that's where it is.